Hello, welcome to the second video of the Deloitte recruitment process of 2020 for the US tax consultant position. The first video that I had uploaded, that was about the design of the assessment test, basically how the test will be conducted, what will be the rounds and all that. This video is mainly focused on the important topics that will be asked in the different rounds. Okay, so we will mainly be focusing on the MCQ round over here. I'll talk a little bit about the Versant round as well, and then we'll mainly focus on the MCQ round. So let's get on with it. Now when it comes to the assessment test rounds, we have round 1 and round 2. Round 1, as we all know already, is the English communication round, that is the Versant round. That will last from 20 to 25 minutes depending on your speed of talking. Trust me, the slower you are, the better it is. I'll give you a few tips about the Versant round, and after that we'll mainly focus on the CoCubes round, that is the MCQ test, the business proficiency round. This one will last for 75 minutes. There'll be 75 questions and 75 minutes. We'll talk about it. So the entire test, if you do everything well, if everything goes well, the entire test will get over in around 100 minutes. Okay, now if you still want to watch if you haven't watched the first video, that is the design of the test, I would really suggest that you watch it. Okay, I'll leave a link for that video in the description below and also in the I button over here. So please definitely watch it, and after that come back over here and continue this video. Now let's first talk a little bit about the Versant round. Now the Versant round, as we already saw in the first video, it has 6 parts. Now I'll talk a little bit about all the parts in brief, and then we'll move on with the MCQ part. Now part 1 is reading. They will give you a bunch of sentences, sentence 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the voice on the other side will ask you to read random sentences, read sentence 2 or read sentence 4, and so on and so forth. And then you have to do that as clearly as possible. Part B is listening and repeating. Now in this round what happens is there will be a voice on the other side who will tell you a sentence. The sentence will be a very small sentence, hardly 3 to 4 words, that's it. And then you have to make sure that you remember the whole sentence, and then you have to repeat it exactly like that. Now what they test over here is how well do you understand different accents, because there will be around 10 to 15 different sentences that you have to repeat, and what will happen is the different sentences will be from different ethnicities and different accents. Some voices will be from the American accent, some will be from the South American accent, some will be from the British accent, some will be from the Australian accent, and so on and so forth. There will be male voices, there will be female voices. So obviously you know what I mean. They are just testing how well you are at understanding different accents, because when you go and work with them, when you go and work with Deloitte, you will have to work with clients who are overseas at different time zones and different places. So they need you to be able to understand what they are speaking. Part C is about short questions. These are just one word answers basically. And the questions are not really tough. They'll basically ask you questions like what do you sleep on, a bed or the refrigerator? Obviously you have to say the bed. Okay, now one tip that I'll give you in this question is sometimes they will not give you the choice. Most of the times they will give you a choice, either this or this, but sometimes they may not end up giving you the choice. That time you just tell some answer. Okay, even if you don't know the answer to that question, make sure you just say something. Don't just be quiet. Make sure you give them an input. That is important. After that we have part D, that is sentence building. Now when it comes to sentence building, it is basically jumble words which we used to do in 10th standard. Now the only difference over here is the jumble words, they will not be written in front of you. They will tell you the jumbled parts. Okay, and then you have to make sure that you arrange the entire sentence as a whole sentence. So you have to depend on your listening skills over here. Story retelling, what they'll do is they'll give you 3 different stories. They'll tell you a story, then they'll ask you to repeat it. Then they'll tell you the second story, they'll ask you to repeat it, and then the third story, they'll ask you to repeat it. Now, the length of the story will keep on increasing with each and every story. The first story will be around 3 sentences, the second one will be 4 sentences, and the third one will be 5 sentences. Okay, and you will have 30 seconds to retell each and every story. Now, one suggestion that I'll give you for that is, what happens is the first story may be a very small story, a very short story of like 3 sentences, and you may not take the entire 30 seconds to repeat the entire story. Now, sometimes people end up panicking that I finished telling the entire story in 20 seconds and then 10 seconds I'm just sitting silent. Will that be a problem? No, that will not be a problem. Okay, you tell the entire story as it is and then you be quiet. It's okay. Like, and when you are quiet that time, if you end up thinking about some other keywords of the story which you forgot to tell that time, just tell it out. That's all. Okay, the keywords are very important when it comes to story retelling, like names, places, time, the activity. They are pretty important. So make sure you retell that. After that, we have open questions. They will ask you your opinion about a random topic. All right, and then you have to just speak on that for 40 seconds. Now, please don't think that they will judge you based on your opinion over there. Your opinion could be anything. Okay, it could be a conservative opinion, a liberal opinion, that really does not matter. Basically what they are seeing is, if they ask you a question, do you have enough knowledge about the English grammar and vocabulary that you can express your own emotions and your own mentality with others? That is all that they are seeing over there. They do not care what your opinion is, they just care about you being able to convey that opinion in front of others. That's it. Now, a few pro tips for this round. Please use headphones with a foam or a sponge like this picture that I have added over here. If you don't have it, if you can beg, borrow, steal from somebody else, please do that. That will be really helpful because this sponge or this foam will help curb any external noise that you might have in the room. Because in the Versant round, the clarity and noise-free environment is very important. They need to be able to listen to your voice absolutely clearly. And the second very important tip is, please speak slowly and clearly. Every single word should be audible to them and understandable to them. And please do not try to fake an accent. This is very important. People tend to do this, especially in part B, where you have to listen and repeat, and you are hearing different accents, and then you end up trying to fake the accent. Please don't try to do that. Speak in your normal accent itself, that's completely okay. They are just seeing if you can understand their accent, different accents, and if you can tell it out properly and clearly. Okay, Indian accent is a pretty clear accent, so it's completely fine. Okay, so this was about the Versant round. Now let's move on to the MCQ round. Okay, now when it comes to the business proficiency round, this is the CoCubes round, the MCQ test. Now what we have over here is 3 sections. We have the financial accounting, we have the logical reasoning, and we have the MS Excel round. 30 questions and 15 questions. Okay, so 75 minutes and a total of 75 questions. On an average, 1 minute per question. Now a bit of good news over here. You can answer any question from any section at any time. It's not that you have answered a question, marked an answer, and then you move to the next question and then you're not able to solve it. That is not going to happen. Okay, you can go back and change your answer. Like I've mentioned over here, you can skip a question, you can come back to it later, you can change your answers multiple number of times. It's very chill over here. Okay, and the best part over here is no negative marking at all. That means leaving a question unanswered is a crime. Make sure you do not leave any question unanswered. Now let's look at the section specifically. These are the important topics when it comes to financial accounting. Okay, you can maybe take a screenshot of this and then later you can study about all this from Google and YouTube. Okay, accounting principles and conventions, this is extremely important. They will ask you a bunch of questions based on the principles alone. Out of 30 questions, around 7 to 8 questions will be just on this. And they'll be very simple questions like from your 11th or 12th standard commerce. That's it. You need to know about the ratios, you need to know about the balance sheets, different formats, the schedule. Depreciation is again very important. They'll ask you a bunch of questions based on depreciation. So make sure you are familiar with all these things. The trial balance, credits, debits, income, expenditure, again, basically based on the balance sheet. The journal entries, the ledger, closing capital, liability, asset, proprietorship, these are all very important. Yes, there will be some numericals as well. Okay, these are the theory topics, and there will be some numericals based on these topics. So out of 30 questions, I guess they will get around 5 numericals, and the rest 25 will be theory questions. And if you're wondering if calculators are allowed or not, let me tell you right now, calculators are not allowed. Okay, you have to do everything by hand, but don't worry, the numbers will be very simple. You don't really need a calculator. You can do it by hand, no issues. Okay, now let's talk about logical reasoning. When it comes to logical reasoning, you have these topics. Again, you can take a screenshot of this and prepare. Now, seating arrangement, let me just talk about this one. Seating arrangement, you'll get just one question. It'll either be on linear arrangement or on circular arrangement. Basically, you'll have a main paragraph and you'll have 5 sub questions based on that. So obviously, needless to say, seating arrangement is very important. 5 sub questions based on just one question. After that, obviously, blood relation questions, direction sense, ordering and ranking, syllogisms, analogies, statement and conclusion, data sufficiency, verbal classification, that is odd man out, and number series, letter series, pattern completion. If you want to know where you can practice these problems from, everybody's favorite website, IndiaBix, is there at your service. You go to indiabix.com and you go to the verbal and reasoning section. These three, just focus on these three. Okay, all these topics you will get in these 3 sections. So go over there and start preparing. That's all. The difficulty level is actually very easy. It is exactly IndiaBix level difficulty, so it's not really that big a deal. Don't worry. Now we have MS Excel. Now, by my experience of talking to students, what I have seen is MS Excel is the toughest part. It has only 15 questions, but this is the toughest one to clear. That is what they all tell. So I have done some extensive research and I have spoken to a bunch of people, and this is what I have come up with to help you guys. These are all the topics which are generally asked in the MS Excel round. Okay, in the next slide, I'll also show you some specific questions that they have asked this time. But right now, the main things you need to focus on are the formulas. There are a lot of formulas in Excel. Yes, you need to mainly focus on the financial formulas. Okay, shortcuts. I know there are hundreds of shortcuts in Excel, but there will be 3 to 5 questions just on shortcuts. Okay, so obviously that is pretty important. Now EV, SV, PV, VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, very important. All right. Now pivot table, charts, macros. Again, basically whatever is related to data, they are very serious about all that. So uh, everything from inserting a pivot table to inserting a chart and macros, make sure you remember the steps. Okay, because you won't have an Excel sheet to work on over there. You need to remember the steps of inserting all this. And remember the names of all the tabs in Excel, like the home menu, the insert menu, the page layout menu, and all that. Basically, all the menu bars you need to remember. Okay, remember the main options and tools under each tab. Like for example, under the home menu, you have the font and all that. Insert, you have table and pivot table and charts and all that. So stuff like that. You need to know the main tools under each tab. Okay. So yeah, basically memorize as many financial related formulas and shortcuts as possible. And use Google and YouTube. You have plenty of resources. Please make good use of that. Now, yes, the important questions of MS Excel. These are what have been asked this time. Okay, obviously I'm not telling that this will be what this is what will be asked to you this time as well, but some of them will definitely be asked. So how to open a new worksheet, step by step process. I know these are all MCQs. Okay, so each and every option, they will give you different scenarios, and then you have to basically select the correct scenario. And this is a pretty commonly asked question this time. what does V and H stand for in VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP? So the answer is basically V is vertical and H is horizontal. That's it. Now SVPV formula, interest rate formulas, this is very important. Now this again is a very commonly asked question this time. Calculate the exact age of a person in years and days. So basically what they'll do is they'll give you a person's date of birth, and then they will ask you if this is the date of birth entered in this cell, then what formula should I use in order to find the age of the person in years as well as in days. Okay, so obviously you can just research on which formula you will end up using for this, and that will be the answer. That's all. And make sure you know the syntax, the format of the formula carefully. Okay, and then something about the auto sum they will ask. Then VLOOKUP syntax. Basically, after VLOOKUP, there are four different parts or segments in the formula. You need to know the names of all the different segments and what is used for what. You need to know that. Where do we get the pivot table option? The answer is insert menu. If we select some data and open pivot table, where will it go? Same sheet or new sheet? Okay, and the answer for this is by default it will go to the new sheet, but we can select the same sheet or a new sheet depending on our choice. So we have a choice over there. But if you don't want to choose anything, if you want to go by the default option, then by default it goes to a new sheet. So select the option accordingly. Where do we get the autocorrect option? The answer is in the review menu. Finding the time difference between Greenwich Mean Time and Indian Standard Time. GMT is Greenwich Mean Time, Indian Standard Time. Okay. Now obviously that is 5.5 hours, but they will just ask you how to find that out using a formula. Okay. Where is Excel used in accountancy? Pretty important question. I think the options were A was something, B was something, C was something, and D was all of the above. The answer was all of the above. Now, order of the menus, which is the first one, which is the second one, which is the third one, which is the fourth one, and so on. We have the file menu, home menu, insert menu, so on and so forth. So you need to remember all that. Now the formula used to, so they'll give you a random scenario like this. Suppose I have data from B1 cell to B10 cell. What is the formula used to find the sum of the data from B1 to B10? Obviously the answer is equal to sum B1 is to, colon B10 bracket close. That's all. Now they may give you the same formula in a different option also with a slight change in the syntax. Maybe in place of colon over here, they might end up writing semicolon. So you need to be careful about that. This one, where do you find macros? Macros are very commonly asked. So make sure you know a little bit about macros. Watch some YouTube videos, you'll be able to understand. Macros are basically in the view menu. Now, oops, one second. Yeah. Now the if function syntax. Now there is an if function over there, obviously. What is the syntax of that? What are the different segments of the if function? Steps to insert a pivot table, what to click, when to click. So where do you need to go? You need to open Excel sheet, then you need to go to insert and then pivot table, and then select the entire data table and then pivot table and all that. So you need to know the entire process of inserting a pivot table. So all that will be asked in form of MCQ. This one again is a pretty commonly asked easy question. For old Excel, that is 97 version to 2003 version, what was the file format? It was .xls. And now the new format from 2007 onwards is .xlsx. Okay, so these are the things you need to remember. Now let's talk about a few do's and don'ts, or basically you need to note all this. The camera and microphone are always on. They are always switched on during both the rounds. Okay, and you always have to face the camera. Basically, you can't turn your head around way too much. You will get a warning on the screen if you turn your face around too much. Okay, you can look down obviously to do some rough work and all that, but you can't look left, right, or up and all that too much. Even if you look at your sheet, your working sheet quite a lot, then also they will give you a warning, but during the test you don't have to worry about that. That is okay. Now every section, yeah, this is very important. Every section has its individual cutoff. So it's not a total cutoff. So please don't think that I'll do really good in accountancy and I'll do bad or mediocre in MS Excel part and I'll clear it. That will not happen. Each and every section has its own cutoff. Okay, so please make sure you answer all the questions because there is no negative marking. Basically, you will have a timer on the screen somewhere up on the top of the screen. Make sure you keep an eye on that. When you see that only 1 minute is left, just do inky pinky ponky and then keep on marking all the answers. Do not leave any question unanswered basically. Please keep a pen or pencil and paper handy with you right beside you, because after the Versant round, if you clear, hopefully you will clear and then you'll go to the next round. You won't be able to get up and then search for a piece of paper and pen and all that. Okay, the next round will start immediately, or maybe it will take 5 or 10 minutes, but the point is that you can't get up from the place. You have to be there. So make sure you keep a pen, pencil and paper with you. You can't use this during the Versant round, but you'll have to use this in the MCQ round. And if at all, yeah, this is pretty important right now. If at all there is a power cut or an internet issue, you can resume the test in 5 to 10 minutes. You can go back to the same login. Again, there'll be testing of your configurations and all. And then again, you can resume the test from where you left. After all this, if everything goes well, after a day or two, they will announce the names or the list of the people who are eligible for the interview rounds. So for interviews also, I have a video coming up that I will post in a few days. So yeah, this was about all the tests. If you did not understand anything, please go back and rewatch the video, and please make sure you watch the first video as well. I wish you all the very best. Thank you so much.